Okay, so Kato was talking about this. This happened on Friday, and it was crazy. And Friday afternoon, you start getting the alerts if you're into entertainment and you get the LA Times or TMZ or something like that. You're getting the alerts. Boom, Anne Heche involved in a pretty bad car accident. Now, it happened near the beach cities. Mar Vista is where this thing went down. And then more details emerged. But the bottom line was she was caught inside her burning car. High speeds. Was there alcohol involved? Sounds like there was. We'll advance that story here in a little bit. But she crashes into the garage of an apartment complex, backs out of that, and then a few minutes later, she's driving like crazy and smashes into a house in Mar Vista. Incredible.
And I read the story, and you'd think that Anne Heche should not be driving a Mini Cooper.
Didn't that catch you off guard too?
Yeah.
I mean, right?
I was going, Mini Cooper?
A Mini Cooper. Yeah,
maybe,
that's what she was driving.
For the gas mileage.
Okay, so as you can imagine, in a nice, quiet suburban community like Mar Vista, this thing is going to cause a ruckus. And we have on the show the man that was first on the scene. Now, he can correct us if he's wrong, but he saw Anne Heche when she was in the car, when she was trapped in the car, when the flames were already starting to engulf the entire vehicle. This is mind-boggling. His name is David Manpearl. And David, thanks so much for joining us, David. Quite the setup here. But man, did your life change a little bit on Friday afternoon? Can you tell us? I would imagine that's not a typical day for you, right? A Friday afternoon?
Hey, David.
Frankly, not a typical day at all. And it was Friday morning, and it took a long time before it became a celebrity story. But it started with seeing a car speed down the street. I was sitting at the desk where I am now, which is my work desk, and I have visibility to the street. And I heard a car and looked to the left, and I saw a car just speed down the street like I've never seen before.
Which is scary because this is a very residential area, right? With speed bumps on the streets, right? To hopefully thwart this type of activity. So this has to be very, very rare.
The street is actually too small and too short for speed bumps. It's so narrow that there's parking on only one side. It's so narrow that when cars head towards each other, one car's got to pull to the side into a driveway or into the space between parked cars so the other one can go past. So when we see speeders, that's someone going 25, 30 miles an hour, and all the families and the dads step out in the middle of the street and tell the guy to slow down. So when I saw this missile go by, I definitely knew that something was wrong.
Sure.
I literally thought it was an out of control car, like a computer or a throttle or even a health issue.
Yeah, health emergency. Could you peg the speed at all? Did you have a hunch about how fast she was going?
Oh, definitely. Well, I mean, look, I didn't want to exaggerate, so I said to myself 50 to 80 or maybe even more, something like that. It's so hard to tell in the context of a place where you see things go by so much slower. Later, we saw some evidence or some people's calculations based on the videos they had looked at, the time to the sound of the impact that really calculated what the speed may more likely have been. But nevertheless, that's what I saw. And some 4 seconds or so later, I heard what I thought was a very soft, it wasn't even that loud. When I see the video, I realize it's much, much louder, but I heard a little bit of what must have been a crash.
And so you're saying that there was video. I imagine this is where those people that have the ring on their doors, the ring with the video cameras. Is that how they're calculating the speed? Because I'd imagine no one knew this was happening. No one's out with their cell phone. Yep. So it's the ring. They found the videos and
skid marks too. I'm sure they can determine.
And if it's bigger than a Mini Cooper, he's saying it's a small street. It's probably crashing into cars before this is happening, right? So the first crash was the crash that's the one, just the house, or wasn't there two?
Well, she hit the apartment earlier. Okay, left there, and then she came down David Street. And didn't she go back and forth a few times too before crashing into the house next to you?
No, it's unclear exactly what happened with the first accident or first altercation at the parking structure garage. Not even a parking structure. The Lincoln Place apartments down the street from us have individual, very old garages, just an individual closing garage for every single apartment owner. And something happened at one of those lines of garages where she hit a post or hit the corner of the garage. And apparently, this is all hearsay, the tenants were trying to stop her or get her out of the car, and she backed up through that. Gosh. There may have been security guards involved or someone even complaining that she came close to running, close to them in the car, something like that. but she left that area, and perhaps immediately afterwards, perhaps later, that area empties out right into our 2-block long street. Like
Right.
I said, we're in a narrow street that's 2 blocks long.
Yeah.
Well, if there's an incident where people are trying to tell her to stop in that, and allegedly, and if the person keeps going, there's a reason that person doesn't want to be. You never know.
Yeah, read
but
between
there's
the
a
lines. I get what
reason.
you're saying, of
Exactly.
course.
Exactly. You want to read between the lines and then take off again.
And that's all going to come out, right? I mean, we have recordings of the podcast earlier in the week that she was on. I mean, no one's driving this erratically without something obviously in her system. And the authorities got the go ahead to test her blood today. So we're going to find out this. By the time people listen to this podcast, probably a lot of that will have revealed itself. Let me ask you this. Now, Kato, this was not a fire, a blaze. This was an inferno. I mean, this was insane. It took almost 60 firefighters an hour to take care of this. And David is there. You see Anne Heche in the car. Did you think, how is this person even alive?
Well, when I first got to Anne Heche, there was either no fire or I didn't notice the fire yet. And in fact, I was a little bit sidelined from going to the car, which was my original intention.
Right.
Because of the tenant who lived at the house. She was in need of some help, and she was a little bit confused and distraught. And she had animals she needed to corral and get out. She was very concerned because she had just been in that room. She later told me she just thought there had been an explosion that came from the sky. What happened was the car just went at the end of our street. It went straight across the busier street and into the front of her house and traveled all the way through her house and came to a stop at the back of her house, at least 40 feet.
Whoa.
That's like a really... go ahead.
I was picturing that it hit the garage and stopped. But you're saying this car, like a missile, went through your neighbor's house from one room to another? And if she had been there, if that neighbor had been there, it would have been over.
Yeah, exactly.
Something I couldn't tell where the walls had been or anything. It went through at least what's the living room and then into another room behind that. And the entire ceiling in the whole house came down and crumbled onto the floor. So it was all this debris to kind of step and climb over.
Right. She's thinking it's a really bad Uber Eats driver. But David, thank God no one was hurt. And the woman lived by herself and just with her pets?
I believe she lived by herself, and she had the 2 dogs and a tortoise with her. And so she was just in need of corralling and finding those animals and getting them outside.
So you saw her and well, you didn't know it was Anne Heche, but you saw the woman first. Let me get this right. You saw the woman's house that got hit. You saw her first. She had to be trembling. Like, what happened? Like, it was an earthquake.
All of that. She was other neighbors that were behind me. She was apparently yelling at them to get out of my house. That means she might have been yelling at me too, but I didn't hear it. But then eventually she was saying to get her leashes, and that was all the way back to the front of the house where I had started. But I found a hook on the wall with a bunch of leashes, and I brought several of them, and we got them on the dogs, and then she went out the side door.
So she had 2 dogs
and a tortoise.
A what?
The tortoise didn't get too far.
She had a tortoise also?
A tortoise, the way it sounds, right? A tortoise.
Oh, yes.
A leash for a tortoise? I got to get one of those. Holy cow. I guess you pick them up at a Shell station. But so this woman, now you go to the car at one point, right? You're in the car trying to pull out the woman that you don't know who's Anne Heche.
I don't know about pull her out.
I
was really under no urgency at the time. I just wanted to see if she needed anything immediately and tell her that people were going to be there to help her and it was going to be okay. And so I was calling out to her and coming to the car.
Didn't recognize her, I take it? You didn't know that it was a former movie star?
I never saw her face.
Okay, I got you.
Saw the back of her
so
head.
David, you're in the car, like leaning into it. The car's in the house. The neighbor's looking for the dogs. We got the tortoise, running the 20-yard dash. When did the flames start? And how soon after the flames start did Anne Heche get rescued from the car?
Well, the flames, I noticed the flames probably about another minute after what we're talking about. I couldn't go to the side of the car, even though I could see the windows were broken because of all this debris around the car. And I tried yelling in the window to her to see if she was okay, but if she answered or I didn't hear anything at all. So I was thinking pretty bad about her condition,
Sure.
but I still had to check. So the back doors of the car, it's one of these mini Countryman style, which is
Oh
like
yeah,
a
the mini.
station wagon version
Yeah,
of the Mini.
yeah.
So it has these little double doors that open and back, kind of like miniature truck doors. So those were unlocked, and I opened those, and that's how I got inside, and finally close enough that I could hear her answer. And so I asked, "Are you okay again?" And she said no. And that wasn't great to hear, but I was glad she answered me.
Yeah, that's a good sign.
Yeah, at least she's
And
alive, right?
then, and then I asked her if she'd raise her hand, but she said no to that too.
Yeah. What?
And
What?
then there was some other things, but I couldn't tell what she said.
So you're in the car. I'm assuming the airbag's off also, probably interfaced, and maybe that's why she can't raise her arm. You're in there, and I've never seen an airbag go off, and I'm wondering if there's that powder that's all covering her face, and she can't lift her arm up because maybe it's broken or it's because it's blocked. And I'm sure she had a seatbelt on. This is just for you. You've got to be shaking yourself. And I don't know if the fire. Tom, I was wondering if the fire started from the car or from the house, and she hit a gas line or something. No one knows yet how the fire actually started. Correct?
Well, I have some definite thoughts on that.
Okay, let's hear them.
But yeah, regarding the airbag, I didn't see it, but there was a lot going on. And you say like shaking or something like that. I think I was just going on pure whatever you do instinctually. I don't
And
remember
adrenaline
making a
kicks
lot
in at
of
that point,
decision.
man.
But I did notice that her torso looked like it was really closely between the steering column and the dash, and then the seat behind her. Almost like when you see a little old lady driving and they pull the seat all the way to the front. That's the impression I got. And maybe when we saw the car later, maybe there was a little bit of compression there.
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But that just became important later once I noticed the fire and started thinking about would it be possible to get this person out of the car?
Right.
Which all that closeness contributed
Oh,
to.
yeah.
Right.
Right. You don't have a jaws of life on you, and you got to make some split-second
No way.
decisions,
I was-
right?
I was gonna say, the
because think
decision
about it. You start
you
moving
might-
bodies like that, there could be a neck injury. You don't know what to do. But then a fire's coming. By the time that happened, how long before fire department got there? Because it was a huge response by LAFD, right? I mean, eventually there was almost 60 firefighters on the scene. How long did it take for first responders to show up?
It's hard to say time, but I felt like it had to be 10 minutes. They didn't get called until 4 minutes after my ring captured the car going by. And it was 4 seconds after that the accident happened. And there was a lot of stuff going on with neighbors and by that house before the first fire trucks got there. And even after they got there, it just seemed like an interminable infinity before they got hoses turned on and started even attempting to find out where they would aim these hoses.
Kato, it was interesting because you read some of the accounts, and we got the man that was right there. I mean, the neighbors were doing what they could. I mean, they got garden hoses. They're showing up, doing what they can.
So the neighbors are there with garden hoses. So you're feeling water while you're trying to save Anne Heche?
There was discussion when we first got there about, well, no, I actually don't know. There was this discussion with my one neighbor who didn't go inside because he had barefoot. So he was yelling at somebody to please bring him some shoes. And I went in with my flip-flops and climbed over these things. And then we got through this part we already talked about, where I was in the car with Anne Heche, or with this driver who I just knew as a driver at the time. And I felt some water splashing on me. And I looked behind me and I saw one of my neighbors holding a hose and squirting over my head. And so I looked at the front of the car, and that's where I noticed, yes, the front of the car was lodged against the back wall of the house. And there were flames, like a curtain of flames, up the entire wall of that house, coming from underneath the car. And that's when it got real. Oh my goodness. Everything changed. in what was going on.
Yeah,
and suddenly
yeah,
the
it's
plan of
gone.
comforting her.
It's multi-level
And
crisis now.
Now you're thinking, can I be in the car if it blows up? Do I save? How much time do I have? So you're making split-second decisions.
Yeah, I'm not smart enough to worry about the right things. I should have worried about it blowing up, worrying about who knows what. I was worried that I would have trouble climbing out of the house quickly because I had these terrible shoes on my feet.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a mask. And really quickly, I started to notice the smoke because it was burning my eyes first. And then it seemed like the next time I looked up, the flames were all the way to the ceiling and sort of licking in under the ceiling and coming inward. And then the next thing, they were on both sides, on the left and the right, wherever we were.
This is surreal.
And,
it's like he's describing a movie.
Yeah,
I mean, this
exactly.
is insane. And, you think about it, too. People drive under the influence, unfortunately, all the time. But, I mean, it almost seemed like there may have been more to that. It's almost like you have a death wish. You crash into a garage at an apartment complex. You back out. You go zipping up and down at about 80 to 100 mile an hour in a residential neighborhood. Then you crash into a house. I mean, my goodness, that's a lot, especially for a Friday morning.
Yeah, and
there's only one zip involved. Sorry to correct you on that, but I don't know. I'm being the devil's advocate, and I'm worried about the victims here, and especially when any crime committed is alleged. Or alleged at this point. The altercation, whatever happened, I know nothing about except for what we've all read at the garage, is minor, no matter what. And the speeding down the street, I mean, there could be explanations for that. I mean, I know that you rattle off all these circumstantial things like the podcast, the photo of the possible red top bottle in the front of the car. I mean, they definitely add up, but we are not judges and juries here at all.
Well, let me ask you this, and David, I know that when you have adrenaline, all your senses intensify. Did you smell anything from gasoline? Or anything from the house of things that were hit, or even alcohol? Did your senses intensify that you were like, okay, there's gas leaking somewhere, I smell it, and you're making kind of like the Spider-Man, your spidey senses are kicking in. Are you smelling? Did you smell alcohol? Anything? Or is that the furthest thing from your mind?
Perfectly reasonable question.
Yeah.
And I think all the reporters tend to really be looking for that sort of a smoking gun kind of an evidence. And frankly, I've got the opposite of spidey senses. It's terrible. I don't even notice the fire that's all around me until it's like slapped into my face. I didn't notice the smell of the smoke until my eyes are burning and it's choking me out. And
you're like me.
I can't tell you to this moment what was on the dash of her car.
What's the second craziest thing that's happened in your neighborhood? I mean, I would imagine it's a usually pretty calm time around there, but this one will never be topped. This is unbelievable. Has there ever been anything remotely close to crime in your neighborhood?
What makes you so sure this isn't the second craziest thing that's ever happened in my neighborhood? My neighborhood is founded as a replica of Venice, Italy, and instead of streets, they tried to dig canals all over the place. They built giant wooden piers that burned down all the time, and they kept on building them. I'm sure it just keeps going and going. They had beautiful trains going back and forth from here to downtown LA and all over the city that they decided to tear up in favor of less efficient kinds of transportation. I think there's all kinds of craziness constantly going on here.
I would never have guessed.
You know what? I got to say something. It's been throughout the talking to David here. I don't know if you noticed this, but either you're a hero or you're an angel. I don't know which one, because while we're talking to you, there's over your head either a halo or a flame. And don't move to look, but it makes me feel like you're a blessed person from looking at this. And you have your own halo above you, or a flame from the heavens or something. So
it's a pretty cool effect. It's the remnants of a ceiling fan.
But I have to rate David as someone and as a hero. I really do.
Yeah, definitely.
I have to say that even though I can see you're humble, I can see that anybody would do this. I think in the situation, you did the proper thing, and you tried to save not just Anne Heche's life, but the neighbor, the dogs, the tortoise. So you did, which I think every person hopefully would do. You didn't run the other way, and you went in to help. So that's my vote. Is that, and I don't give up that easy. I still consider you a hero.
Wow, thank you, gentlemen. I gotta say, just because the story continues and there's some help that we can ask from everybody, that it doesn't end there. Even though it takes a temporary break on the Anne Heche story, and like I've said, every time I think I can, I just hope the best for her, and I hope she recovers well and quickly and all of those things. But by the time we all got out onto the sidewalk, there were quite a few neighbors there, and we all trucked the tenant over to my house here with her pets that ended up staying here for most of the afternoon. And the neighbors just kept on coming with support. It started out with things like shoes because she had been barefoot, and other, necessities and things like that, and just letting her use the facilities and the computers and whatever she needed. She was kind of up in arms and didn't know exactly what to do. And at least there were people here supporting her. And along that route, realizing she was a renter, she had said at one point she didn't have much in the way of renter's insurance. The landlord, who turned out to be a friend of hers also, and I worked together to start a GoFundMe page.
That's great.
I don't know if you two have seen that yet, but that GoFundMe
We'll promote
page,
it for you. Give us the info.
Yeah,
we got
tell
you.
us.
I can paste that link perhaps.
Do it. I'll take care of it. We'll make sure we get this. We'll put this on the
put
edit.
it up.
Done. And I know you.
Fantastic. So you'll get that on the side.
Yeah, we'll say it anyways.
And then just the outreach from not just individuals, but individuals all over the community and then all over the country, but also organizations, rescue organizations, animal organizations. The outreach that came out to help Lynn, the tenant, get back on her feet and do it quickly while waiting for whatever is going to happen with insurance and liability and who knows, responsibility and things like that.
Right.
Has been just wonderful for me to see.
Well, a tragedy does normally brings things, people and communities much closer together. And so, David, if you just say the GoFundMe page, can you tell us? We'll put it up there, but just say the name.
Well, the name is Lynn Michelle with an odd spelling. And so it's GoFundMe / it's got all kinds of characters.
We'll take care of that, making sure.
But if you search for her by name in the GoFundMe, it'll come up instantly.
Yeah. Yeah. Think